I'm Rob.
I'm E.
I'm Sunmundi.
I'm Sasco.
Welcome to the next movement, folks.
My phone, my bones, tones ring in my head. Going to bleed and bled. I sat down to unwind and time sped. I am my clone's clone. You can't reach me, I went ghost. I can't be captured, prisoner at home. My screen, my eyes, everything I seen today filtered through the philosophy of commodified time. The objective is capital C crime. Each of my selves lit aside secretive lives. My outer shell is calm, but my core overly intertwined. Life itself a time-sensitive bomb. Anxiety make me hug the wall like vines. Every once in a while, insecurities hold me down. They yawn to the teeth to punch out a smile. Add space to the place where big brothers bond. Subscribing the line, they film the stars die. My location is no longer mine. Hey, yo, give me some satellite distance. Commercial knows me better than I know myself. Makes me sick in virtually every instance. Reality intermittent. My screen time reform was met with resistance. The first step is admittance. Night was lurking, something was clicking when I finally heard the crickets. Days are the same, nights make the difference. Death a match, life is scrimmage. Moon influence on mimics. I play mom when I'm contacting the spirits. You feel it? Cause I feel it.
Got Sunmundi and Sasco in the building. They're here tonight to talk to us about their new record, Contacting, which drops a couple days after this episode on July 11th. Sunmundi and Sasco. Guys, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sending us the record ahead of time. Gave us a lot of time to listen to it, which I've really enjoyed. And so let's just dive right in and get to it. The album is called Contacting. Like I said, I think it's great. I want to try to unpack the title and the theme as I see it. I love a record that sets the tone and presents a thesis of sorts from the very start. This project sort of does the opposite, or did the opposite for me, I should say, but I still love it. It wasn't until I finished it, till I heard the last lines, "I've been contacting you my whole life," that I started to believe that I understood it better. I started to think of contacting in the context of like communication with spirits, whether it's spirits of loved ones who have passed or great artists, writers, thinkers of the past. Then I started thinking about contacting as in contact with some other world or alien life form, kind of like the movie Contact. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The vocal snippets all started to make sense to me, the sampled vocals throughout. But I want to hear y'all tell it. What does contacting mean to the two of you in the context of this project?
Well, I think you like totally nailed like parts of it. Like first of all, I'll try not to be too like long-winded about it, but I do enjoy titles that have like kind of ambiguity, like kind of open-endedness that you know, like a listener can apply. Like you said, the album is concerned with contacting, like yes, like a spiritual kind of like feeling and people. It's but I mostly approached it in the way of thinking about like how we just like literally contact people and talk to people, and it was very informed by just the hyper communication we have like day to day with everybody through like social media, whatever. And I was just thinking about how those types of communications like hinder us, help us, how we interact with them, how we interact with the ability to talk to anyone and everyone. And also, like you said, you mentioned like contacting like something like otherworldly. Like that was something that I wrote down in my notes when I was like spitballing this title. I was thinking about like if we could contact like quote unquote like extraterrestrials or like another like world or whatever. I was thinking about like what would we show them that's human? You know what I mean? And that kind of fits in with the theme of like how do we just communicate with each other? And then yeah, the other layer of it is just how technology informs and also like kind of swallows us, like you know what I mean? It's like so I think that was kind of the ballpark that I was thinking about with the name contacting, and also just like the open-endedness of it. Like who are you contacting? Like why are you contacting someone? Why are you talking? Why are you communicating? So yeah, I think you totally picked up on where I was going with it. It's my interpretation of it. I love hearing other people's interpretation of my music. That's like one of the most fun things about talking to people about my music, in my opinion, is like I just love when people interpret things differently and in unexpected ways and stuff. So
An important part that you mentioned, Rob, being like being in contact with like other artists, other musicians in this case from the past, like spiritually or like just in dialogue with them through the work itself. One of the things I was able to contribute as far as like vocal samples that touches on this, like the samples on Cloud Spells from some conversations I had myself with Victor Lewis talking about, contacting the spirits and playing music more as a conduit than like any more than anything else, that being the main driving force behind it. Marcus encapsulate, I'm sorry, you can bleep the name if you're not okay with me saying that.
Nah, go
So
for it.
Moody
It's all
so
good.
Moody like encapsulating in the line which says like I either speak with the conduit or don't do it. um as far as like creating music, like that's such a great mantra to me. I think that encapsulates why I make music,
Mm.
or like the way I would ideally like to, because of course you can't always be in situations where like you're achieving this high spiritual standard all the time, if you're doing it a lot. But yeah, that's an important part of it I like to touch on. Of course, it comes up on other points of the record too, and everything else is also valid. But yeah,
The production on the project like really fits this sort of theme that you guys are talking about. At least my interpretation of it. It sounds otherworldly. It's like celestial. Apart from
Mm.
whatever interpretation there is to take from the project, it sounds full of life. I hesitate to even call them beats. They're like soundscapes. They shift and move like effortlessly. At times, they remind me of what a really tight band might sound like. Like Cloud Spells. Excuse me, Clout Spells is a great example. The beat never switches. It just kind of like bends and stumbles until it becomes something else. Then it returns to its previous form. Sunmundi, what is it about this production that works for you? And how did this production challenge you?
I think what works for me with, well, first of all, Steve's production is so different. I'll say that when I first came up, I came up with the like title for my next album, which was Contacting first. Like that was the first like point of a new album for me. And I was kind of collecting beats from like multiple producers, and they were all really cool, and they all had this kind of like electric, electronic, like kind of sharp, like other like kind of celestial, like you were saying, like aspect to them. But then I was getting beats from Sasco, and I was like, these beats are 10 times more interesting and challenging, and they were also like textured and layered. So I was so happy to just be like, let's just make a full album together, like just me and you. The first song we made was Airdrop, which is like one of the most, I don't know, kind of like one of the most unique beats on the album. It's kind of like got this big beat switch in the second half, and it adds like a lot of drums. And I think that was the most well timed like thing for me. Was like I was my previous music is very like quote unquote drumless, whatever. And Sasco's production, like a lot of these beats are just like such like heavy drums. Like I just really dig that sound. Like it was just something new for me, and it was challenging for me in the sense that it was like the most drums I've ever rapped on. And it was challenging in that sense, but it was also like quite easy in the sense that if I love a beat, I'll write to it. Like I kind of can't write to beats I don't absolutely love. And so Sasco has sent me. We've been working on this project for like since what 2023, Steve?
yeah, I looked it up the other day, and it was like
Or
almost exactly 2 years ago. We like actually said let's just make a whole album together. But
yeah,
I should mention though, some of these beats I did send to you like close to 4 years ago, and
yeah.
you turned them down initially, and then as we got going on this, you came back like, is this one taken?
Sometimes it
And
takes me a couple years to get into a beat. So
yeah, no, I mean that's not a bad thing. Like I was sending you stuff that like based on the music you had out, like was
Word.
made no sense to send you. But yeah, like Idly Nowhere, that's very old.
Mm.
And then you came back to that later.
Yeah, a beat I
Both beats on
stole.
that actually. The first one on that was like a beat that was like 4 years old, and then the second beat on that was the first track we put out together. I don't remember when exactly that was. The Man and the Fly
Mm.
was originally like a two-part beat with the one that's on Idly Nowhere, second half now, and then the one that made it to that track. You asked me to
Mm.
cut off the section that's on here, and then yeah, you came back to use it now.
Right. And the first half of that song, the first beat, I was like, yo, I was a couple years late, and I hit Sasco and I'm like, I need this beat. And he was like, someone else has it. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna need it. And I got permission to steal it. Not the first time I've like intercepted a beat from someone. But Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of these beats were kind of like they kind of found their way into like the album, into the project, you know. So anyway, my grander point was like Sasco has sent me so many beats, which is kind of why we have like 22 tracks on the album. He just sent me so many amazing beats, and we just had so much time, so that's how it worked out.
Sasco, for you, what is it about Sunmundi that makes his voice like and flow fit so well with these soundscapes?
I don't know. He was just able to really bend and fit, all these different shapes and styles very well, without changing anything about himself at the core of like what makes a Sun Mundi verse or song. There was not a single demo I got back where I was like unsure of whether it was a good fit, a beat to his vocals.
Just to echo what Rob has already said about the production, I mean, it's really fucking incredible. The first time I heard it, I was in a car on my way to the airport, and I just let myself get wrapped up in it. It has a way of drawing you into it, whether you're conscious of that or not. It's just really incredible. Two questions for you, Sasco. I'm curious about what inspired a direction, particularly the jazz elements and sounds that you use throughout it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, over 22 tracks and like a certain period of my life, there's when I was making the beats for this project, there were some sample sources I was leaning into more than others.
Hmm.
I don't know how specific like it's worth getting on that. A couple different like eras and parts of the world that I was drawing from more than others. One of those things though was and I think this are probably the beats you're talking about. Just like jam sessions I had been a part of myself or tracks I had created, some session, just things I'd recorded personally, either solo or with a band. So like tracks like Bright Moments, I don't remember when that happened, but that was I sampled a session of a band I was playing with at the time. Same with second half of I Idly Know, where I've got the lists. Spirit Ballistics, that was just like a solo session I did. I had this, setup where I had I was playing drums, had it run through some effects,
Mm.
had the kick drum like triggering a synth, and then just playing free on top of that. And obviously I just chopped it up into like a few catchy bits. What else did I do that with? Where Are You? That was just me. I just took myself playing drums, put it on top of a friend of mine playing Rhodes that I recorded him doing
Mm.
like a whole other time. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like that kind of music is just like something I'm involved in and love to listen to, whether or not I was playing it. Algorithm Power Lines too. Actually, that was like a gig I played one time. Just had like a video recording of it with a quartet and
Mm.
just like sped that up, chopped it up, put some bass underneath it. Yeah.
That's great. If I can jump in, I want to hear all of the like originals. I need to hear all the originals of these beats, like all the original sources. That's so I can't even fathom. My like rapper mind cannot fathom how you made things like that into those beats. That's crazy. Also EMP, wasn't EMP like a
Oh,
session?
yeah. That was actually That was just it was the same kind of setup as Spirit Ballistics, just like a different session,
So sick.
just like solo playing and just chopped it up. I think I did some more chopping on EMP, or manipulated it more than I might have done on Spirit Ballistics. But yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, so sick.
I appreciate that. Just hearing that your work with sort of other projects that you're involved with, and just your appreciation for other forms of music, kind of informed your production on this. It sounds like that anyway. And I don't know that we've ever gotten an answer like that when we've asked folks about production. So I really appreciate that background.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten very lucky to just be at a point where if I'm looking for samples, like stuff I listen to just day to day happens to be, that, yeah, I don't know how specific. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure, sure, sure.
not that this album's, I'm not expecting a high enough listenership to get sued or anything, but like,
Yeah.
I am, motherfucker. No, I'm just
I feel you gotta be careful. Yeah.
right.
The second question I had for you was, what's it been like for you to listen back to the work that you've done for contacting now that it's completed?
Then I took the first listen. I just got the test CD in the mail, I think Saturday. So I just did my first listen in like over maybe a month or two when I got that, because I had gotten like very fatigued with it in the mixing
Mm.
process. I think I don't know. I just spent a lot of time on it, just trying to get it sounding right. But no, listening, every time I don't always get the urge to listen to it, but every time I have to or do, like I'm just incredibly proud of it. Not just for the production, but like, you know, the songs as a whole. You know, there's really I couldn't think of a better home for these beats than
Yeah.
with Sunmundi, and like really took them to as great a height as anyone could.
I think one thing that was immediately apparent for me when I was listening to Contacting is that you both feel really aligned as creators on this project. You know, like I said, it was immediately transparent to me, and it's one of the reasons I really like the album. I think that you can always feel that creative bond between people when it's there. So, two questions for you both. First is, what did it take for you to reach that level of comfort and trust with one another?
Mm. I think it's so funny. Like Sasco and I have very um we like don't see eye to eye on so many creative things so often. We've been making so much music over the past like whatever 2 years. There is so many times where we have like differing like maybe like creative views, and I think that's good. Like I think we need to, as like artists, like kind of embrace that. Like I think it created like our differences sort of resolved into like something better. I think it wasn't just like yes to every single thing on both sides. You know what I mean? Which like we're both coming at it from like we want this to be as good as possible. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
so it's been like it's always a work in progress. Like your working relationship with everyone like changes no matter what, whatever you're making. It's always a work in progress. And I think we are getting more like kind of in line, but we have moments where we're like, nah, man, you're like bugging. That's not supposed to be there or blah, blah, blah. Like we have that all the time. And I think it's for the better. Like there are so many moments on the album that I feel like there's creative things that I've like kind of conceded on that I'm like, wow, I didn't see that until listening to it like a month after. Like that happens like almost every single time. I'm like, oh wow, that was a great, well-informed musical decision. And that's something that I don't always have. Sometimes I'm like very impulsive with like creating. Sasco definitely like kind of brings a more like leveled, like quite experienced, sort of like well-educated view on a lot of musical things. You know what I mean? But I love working with Sasco. It's like because I don't know, we make dope shit. Like period. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely wasn't always, you know, the most seamless.
Yeah.
Just learned a lot about collaboration.
Mm.
I think this is my first project, you know, like as a one producer, one rapper
Mm.
affair. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, it was a big learning process. I mean, we both made a ton of compromises, but you know, it turned out better than it probably would have if one person was just dictating everything.
And I'll say, if I can just add on to that, like you were saying, like there is so much creative over. Like we wouldn't have produced this many
Of
songs
course,
if
yeah,
there was not like a very fundamental and important like creative overlap and like overarching ideas, which we have. And yeah, it's just a matter of like when we both, if we make a song, it's a song that is tight. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
yeah, I think it was all for the better in the end. Like
right. And of
we,
course, like as you said, like when you were putting this much time and work into it, it's like of course both people just want the best thing for it. So like that's always at the core of everything.
Second question I have related to this conversation is, how much of this work did you create when you were physically together?
That was
like
zero.
zero.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never like made music not just like over like text, email, Discord, whatever. Like
Really? With anybody?
no, I've never been like I record my music in my car like after work type
Huh.
shit. Like that's what I do. Like I
And I
don't
offered up a space and a mic and all, you know, but yeah, you were
yeah.
insistent on the car. I
I
think it
mean,
work, you know, whatever works.
right, that's what I'm saying. I'm like anyway, but yeah, no, it's all just we've like linked, in person and
Right.
hung in person, but
Hmm.
as far as yeah, music making, it's like send a beat, I send a demo. Like that's
Mm.
that's
Right.
personally how I've always made music. That
Hmm.
and I just record in my car. Like it's a very like peripheral kind of process for me. You know what I mean? But
A lot of phone calls too, you know.
oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Even though like people I've worked with in, you know, been in the same city with, it's gotten to the point where it's that way most of the time also.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I'm sure it needs to be like that just because of life, but it's just always damn so interesting to me when it feels. I know you're all saying like it wasn't always seamless, but it feels so seamless. Like contacting feels so seamless creatively.
Oh, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's an achievement. That's because it's like literally like 90% of the time we're overlapping on ideas and we're like building on shit and it's great. It's just like little creative choices where it's like, nah, it's got to be like that. No, it should be like that. So
Yeah.
those types of things resolved into greater moments.
And it's like should this sample be a half second before or
No,
after this snare drum? Those what the on ethical hacking, there's like a little like siren or laser sound effect after Bagel
oh,
says hide by fists. And like we spent time just like, should that land with the snare or should that land before the snare? And like,
it's
just
very,
things
it's
like
all
that. That's where
very
like
minute.
the broad, like, what are we making this about, and like just the songs coming together as far as like structure and lyrics. Like, that was all very seamless. But yeah, when we got into the weeds of it, that's like where we were starting to compromise.
Yeah.
That's so true. Well said. Yeah, no, it was a lot of millisecond choices.
Right.
Uh, for sure.
Just out of curiosity, what is it about the car and recording vocals that feels like makes it the right spot?
Uh, I don't know. It's just convenient to my life. I can't really record in my apartment. Like, I don't want to annoy my neighbors. Um, and also just I'm just used to it at this point. Like, nah, I just do it like in front of my apartment in my car. Like, I don't know. It's just convenient. It's easy. I feel like it. I did record some of Midnight, my first album, like Midnight Oil. I recorded some of it, or maybe most of it, in a studio, and I don't know. I'm just like, it was mad far, it was mad expensive, and I think recording in my car is just like such a habit at this point. I don't even want to like Sasco was saying. I'm like, I kind of don't think I would. I don't know. It's just something about the being in my fucking car and recording on my little, like, I have a very very old like recorder connected to my like mic, and it's just like mad simple. So I just dig it. I don't know. I'm used to it.
I'll chime in too to say, like, I also very much get the desire to record in a car. If like you're talking about annoying your neighbors, like that's part of it, but also I'm sure there's an element of like you're probably going to perform the track differently if some person who lives downstairs is hearing you do it. I was surprised you do it like outside your apartment though. I always kind of pictured you just driving to some empty lot somewhere like on the edge of
I,
town and
Dude, I used to do that, bro. I used to on my lunch break drive into the whatever Dollar General parking lot and just find a spot and record. But yeah, nah, I just don't have the wherewithal to be doing all that. I just go outside and I'm like, time to go.
you ever
So,
have people like walking by like what is he doing?
um I've had looks. People have given me neighbors have given me looks. I'm happy to accept looks, but I'm not going to be like yelling and I don't want to be hurt. I don't want a neighbor to hear me. Like, why is he? What purpose does he have to do that? I don't know.
Right.
As I've been listening to Contacting and reading the lyrics of the songs on it, it has very much felt like a philosophical piece of work that offers a very real, cynical, and sometimes hopeful analysis. I imagine the creative process behind and the structuring of this album could be one that was very insular, and at times it probably needed to be that way for both of you in order for it to sound like it does. At the same time, it also is apparent that you've created the space that encourages curiosity and you're inviting people to join you in considering and questioning the world around us. So, when Contacting was coming together, did you have to be really intentional when carving out its direction to ensure that listeners could feel the vision that you have for the project? Or is that something you didn't put pressure on?
Speaking personally, I didn't. Well, as far as like opening up the floor, if you will, like this is the first album of mine that I've had features on,
Mm.
um, and that kind of goes back to Rob's earlier question of how Sasco's beats challenged me. While I was like simultaneously like taking on the drum, which is, it's not like a big ordeal, like rapping on drums. Like, of course, that's what everyone. I just don't come from that. Like, I'm not like a someone who usually does that. So with rapping on drums and rapping on like such at times like really busy, really weird pocket, you gotta like finding like algorithm, like just kind of like high maintenance type of beats. Like, I wanted to just kind of invite more people. Like, in this like underground rap space we have, there's so many incredible voices, and it was mostly just mutual artists, right, between us, mutual people.
Right.
And, yeah, I would just give them, like a little like, here's what this album's roughly about. So just come in and do what you got to do, and it worked out really good. And like you said, the like cynical but also hopeful. My music has been kind of traditionally cynical, and again with like a brighter sounding album and like more drums and more features, I'm trying to make room for more like, I don't know, just the other side of the coin. Like I
Mhm.
sometimes making the dark music gets old. Like the song Algorithm with Joaquin Fox, like that's my man. I fucking love that dude. He just raps so tight, and I think what he's talking about on that track is just something so different, like different from me. So I'm just happy to like bring in people, and I can get different things from them, and we can all build something cool on a Sasco beat. Like that's just really tight.
Yeah. The question was about like the intentionality of the whole. I mean, for me at first, if I'm being very honest, this doesn't apply to everything. But when I was first sending beats, I was just like excited to be getting beats to Sunmundi. So like, I was just throwing whatever at him, and especially once he started getting back the demos quickly, because I think after we decided to do an album, I was still working on like whatever I was doing at the time. He had lived in Born Going, so it was a few months after that for when Airdrop happens, and then like there was a period where like just 10 tracks came in just like one after the other. So it took a while for me to like really know what I was getting back, what this was going to be about. But after that point, of course, it was able to be really intentional about it. And then after everything was recorded, doing like post production, getting samples and ordering the tracks. Um, yeah, it was definitely like a no stone left unturned kind of thing.
There are a bunch of bars that have stuck out to me as I've listened to the project. On the track, Interference, Out of the Loop, Sun Mundi says, my screen, my eyes, everything I've seen today layered through the philosophy of commodified time. The objective is capital C crime. Each of my selves lives inside secretive lives. My outer shell is calm, but my core overly intertwined. Life itself, time sensitive bomb. Anxiety makes me hug the wall like vines. Every once in a while, insecurities hold me down. They're armed to the teeth to punch out a smile. All right. So again, my interpretation, but it sounds to me like you're addressing the dynamic between like technology, be it surveillance or smartphones or social media, and our mental health. The difficulty this dynamic creates in contacting ourselves, maybe. So I wanted to ask, like, how would you say, and I'd ask this of both of you, how would you say you managed to like cut through all that noise in order to create with the clarity that you seem to have on this record?
Yeah, your interpretation's on point. Those lines are just about like straight up just being addicted to my phone. And to answer your question, I don't cut through the noise. Like I can't. Like I'm still. That's just like, I feel like this shit. It shit just rewires your brain. As we all like know, like we hear this every day. Yeah, I don't know. I personally can't cut through the noise. Like I just kind of live with it. Like it's an ongoing process. Like just getting off of your phone, getting off social media, going outside. I'm personally still very much like going through that. Like I'm just, it's hard to get out. Like just being straight up addicted to your phone is fucked up, and it sucks. Makes you anxious, makes you depressed. We all know how that shit goes. Like so that's definitely what those lines touched on. And yeah, to answer your question, I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I make music that's like in spite of, I make music in spite of that. And also like I feel like it's influenced by that. Maybe like some of the later beats that ended up on contacting, and but especially just like everything I've made since. There's like a different energy and like hyperness to it, but also like a haze to it. Like you could hear on some tracks like Meditation app is kind of light on there, but especially like Dawn of Time or Telepathy or like Cloud Spells. I have like a couple effects that I use that like kind of create this layer of haze on top of everything. And honestly, I just kind of feel like that is like not too different from just like existing with these things. The kind of filter it puts over just everything else in your life. kind of having that, yeah, just that fog there.
Yeah. So
That makes sense.
yeah, it's like taking that noise and making it into something artistic, which I think is pretty great.
I uploaded my woes on the beat, straight face, loaded screen. My POV only MP3, heights MVP, the lows NPC. Troubleshooting, click and reload geek. I restart the game every time I step out my apartment and put the suede clogs on the street. Wet cement success, mama, I made it to the hip hop bootleggers league. Hard pavement is the aftermath. What did all this rap really achieve? What did it do for you? What has it done for me on this World Star? World Star, what we doing on this World Star? World Star, World Star. How we move is proof that soon we all gon' poof on this World Star. World Star, World Star. My life laid out in the dark. Left engineers in awe. They watching us, this is a chance to show them who you are. That World Star, World Star. You know we stuck on that World Star.
In the song World Star, Sunmundi says, I restart the game every time I step out of my apartment, put the suede Clarks on the street, wet cement and success. Mama, I made it to the hip hop bootleggers league. Hardened pavement is the aftermath. What did all this rap really achieve, huh? What did it do for you? What has it done for me on this World Star? On the surface, it sounds like a song that's wrestling with purpose or meaning behind the music, at least that part of it, those lines. Do the two of you often struggle to know what making this music does for you or anyone else?
It's not even really something I think about too much. I don't know. I've been making music in a lot of different ways for a very long time. It's just like more of a compulsion, something I just kind of do. I'm just drawn to doing it. And of course, like any kind of recognition is nice, but like I made albums no one heard and played drums in a room by myself for no one, like so much. So I don't know. I don't really know like if I could really like outline one specific purpose. I will say though, I love the line of "Mom, I made it to the Hip Hop Bootleggers League." I didn't realize Hip Hop Bootleggers was an actual website, but I just remember last fall when I put out the Hottest Year on Record, and like that album ended up on SoulSeek. I was like, I was so proud. Like, wow, like someone thinks my record is like worth pirating.
Right.
That was so cool to me.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's just like, yeah, when you get to the point where, oh, like this kind of recognized underground pirating website leaks your music, it's like, oh, that's fucking sick. But it's also like, what does that mean? Like, what is significant about that? There's so much music that is on there every day. And yeah, just as far as like purpose of making music, like Sasco said, yeah, it's just like something we do. And I don't know, I don't know. I tend to just like overthink shit all the time. And at the end of the day, like making music is kind of a privilege, at least like for me. I'm like,
Oh
this
yeah,
is a privilege that I have the time to do that. You know what I mean? I think we kind of all think like that. It's a privilege to do this.
right.
And yeah, it's a little like you can interpret it as selfish, but you can, I don't know. It's also something that, you know, people need to do. Like we need to make music, we need to make art, despite there being such oversaturation of like content and even like music turning into like content. That's also like problematic. So yeah, I don't know, just day by day, me personally, I've like told myself I'm gonna stop making music all the time just because like I really do not dedicate enough time in my life to like other important stuff. Like music kind of takes precedence sometimes. And that's also something I'm working on, just like prioritizing my life more than music. But I don't know, sometimes it's just hard. So yeah, I guess that song is kind of confronting that question, like what is the point of me doing this? Sometimes it's good, sometimes you're like, am I wasting my time? I don't know.
I feel like it's like an impossible thing. Like there is a point to it, but you like won't know what it is till like it happens, but like probably won't.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's like an intangible thing that we're trying to get out of it that we just probably won't, but like it's worth going towards it.
Yeah, and I think that's why the term world star came to me when I was writing that. Like just also like thinking about world star, like the whatever website in whatever years that was going, but also, you know, just just like zooming out and like looking at the world. It's like what is my music doing right now? Like maybe not much, but for me on a personal level, it is my world. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like a difficult thing to try and like parse from like reality. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's impossible. But
But that all like fits, the concept we did for like the video of like the self-satirizing. I mean, you putting that sample, that was your,
yeah, the
um,
Shia LaBeouf sample.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely seemed like a little self-deprecating. And then like I was doing the classic, like going out in Manhattan and trying to hand out CDs, but no one's taking them in the video. Like,
Yep.
uh,
Yeah.
100%.
like a little, a little bit of the futility of it.
Right.
But like also, we put all that effort into just making the fake mixtape for it and all that, and like still worth it.
There was that one dude. Where was he from? Like that dude from
He's from
Switzerland.
Netherlands, maybe.
Yeah, Netherlands. He was like that dude was he was dope. He was like, "Oh my God, that's so sick." And he was like genuinely so interested. He was the only person who really like cared that day. Like only straight
Exactly.
we kind of but that was a cool
Well, I mean,
interaction.
shout out, like we had a couple people come out.
Yeah, a couple. Oh yeah, no, a couple friends came out for sure.
Right.
Yeah, like Shamar, my friend Peter,
Johnny and
Johnny. Yeah. So we're doing music, and I don't know whoever digs it, we salute. Right.
right.
I was going to ask about the video. Yeah, I thought the video was great. Like, it's a great way to illustrate the sort of ambiguity or like, this question about meaning or purpose. It's like, is this really doing anything? Standing out here handing out these mixtapes that in the video, like a lot of people just didn't seem interested in. But I wondered if you had any like stories from that shoot that like have stuck with you.
Definitely that dude from the Netherlands. That was kind of like very. I don't know. That was tight. He just had no reason to care. You know what I mean?
Well, he was telling us was it the deaf jokes and all that. Like he knew some stuff.
Yeah, he did. I think we asked him about Woods, and then he was like, "No, I don't think I've heard of it."
Right.
I was like,
But
"Oh,
he
okay."
was into
Gotta
some,
put you on.
past tense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool interaction. Also, it was just cool. Like we put out, on our stories and shit. We were like, come to Manhattan and get a CD, whatever. And just a couple friends came, and it was just like so tight. Just like hanging with friends, like just bullshitting, like handing out our CDs.
Right.
Giving friends CDs, like, oh, go try to put this in someone's hand. So yeah, I don't know. It was just more like a kind of a fun little day. I don't know.
Yeah, we did end up like a lot of them. I don't have really any of them left anymore. Just like personal copy of maybe one extra. Like
A lot were taken.
a guy in Japan ordered it and then posted on Twitter, "This is the album of the year."
Shout out to that
Just
dude.
like which is really funny too, because like if you haven't heard the tape, we compiled all the tracks, and then I went and I just played them all one by one on the SP with the microphone and like hosted the tape, like just being extra, I don't know, making an ass of myself,
Yeah.
doing bits, and I doing the whole Funk Flex, put your hands in the register thing when I was dropping Scam Central. Not making fun of mixtape culture, Funk Flex, like me being the joke.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought it was hilarious not hilarious. I appreciate it, but someone called it album of the year. On the day though, the funniest one, I think it made it in there. I handed it to this very old woman, and she's like, "What is this?" And Sunmundi pointed to the speaker that was playing one of the songs, and he's like, "Oh, this is it. Like you'll hear these songs on the CD." And then she looked at it, and then just handed it back to me.
That was really funny. I think the mixtape like exists as a nice like foil to the album. Like it's just such
Yeah.
a kind of like a like thing we did in jest, like made a big mixtape and narrated it just as like a kind of I don't know, just like a preemptive move to like we have this actual very serious album which we hope you listen to. So yeah, but that's a cool song. And Rob, I like how you pointed out that yeah, we're it's kind of a joke, but it's also very serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to dig into bright moments for a bit. Sasco, I think you were talking about this earlier when you were going over the production on contacting. Now I want to dig into the lyrics a little bit because Sunmundi, you say some things that I found very interesting. So I'll read the bars that really stuck out to me. So nighttime crises, you can bet that they don't miss me. You can't cock your head the other way. A car crash, gone wrong delivery. Resilience is rarely pretty. Indifference impale me. I'm not kidding. I think there's, for me, a few layers to these lyrics. But I want to start with a question that considers them from a personal perspective. So, Mundi, when you are sharing vulnerable parts of your life with others through your work, is it important for you to have that acknowledged and affirmed in some way by the folks that are engaging with your music?
I wouldn't say that's like a priority or like something that I like really actively like wish for. Like if that happens, that's really nice. And I've
Mm,
heard like a couple people say things to the effect of like, I appreciate you being vulnerable,
hmm
etc. And no, like at the end of the day, for me, like going back to what we were talking about with World Star, it's like I know I make music for me first, and
Yeah.
like I don't make a song if I don't find a lot of meaning in it personally. If people, dig it and connect with it and empathize with it, that's really tight. But definitely not something like in my mind when I'm writing or even when I release it. Like, I kind of just make it, rhetorically to the world, very personally for myself. So when people, say lines that they dig, oh, that meant a lot to me because X, Y, Z, like that shit is tight. But definitely not
hmm
something I'm like, trying to write into the music. If
Yeah.
but it's cool when people affirm it. That's
hmm
tight.
Yeah. I feel that. The next question I have about these bars is a more general one, because they just sort of reminded me of something, right? Like we live in a world where people blatantly ignore trauma and pain, even when it's right in front of their eyes. I think that happens a lot when people listen to music. They don't always pay attention to what an artist is saying, and miss a lot of important messages that are being sent, or they just, gloss over them. Question for you both. Why do you think people aren't more intentional with the way they engage with art?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this recently and trying to fix it individually, like on my own for myself.
Mm,
This is just like one potential diagnosis for it, but like, so a lot of people are just absorbing like too much art, especially too much music, and people should probably listen to less music or less of like whatever their chosen favorite art form is. Not a great thing to say as I'm rolling out an album, but like I don't know. One time kind of recently, I was listening to a lot of stuff like throughout the day, and one weekend I'm like, I'm just not gonna listen to anything this whole weekend. And then come like that Monday, I put out an album. Just like felt so much more emotion just hearing that one album than I
mm,
would have had I just been playing shit all weekend, walking around, going to the store, going somewhere. I think figuring out like when you're getting fatigue or just listening to something just to say you've heard it, just to like give it a rating or just to be able to talk about it on some level. Like there's some like social value to that, but as far as being a person absorbing art and like giving it the most respect, like that's not really the formula in my opinion.
mm,
So just individually, I'm really only listening to music when I like really feel compelled to, and I think it's been working out great for me as far as how much I've been enjoying it.
mm,
It's like
mm.
it's fun again. It's not as much of a chore of like, oh, like these 10 albums came out this week. Now I have to listen to them. Because like, if you're doing that, then like you're not even gonna like those 10 albums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So like so to directly to your question too, like the messages are gonna be glossed over just as much as
Sure.
everything else.
Yeah.
yeah. The irony of like a late stage internet critique album being 22 songs and over an hour long is not lost on me. And I
And
kind
yeah,
of
we put out an hour long mixtape 2 months ago.
these motherfuckers have 2 full hours to listen. But not me myself. Like I feel you. Like I struggle. Like I listen to music every single free second I can. And there's times when I do have to like just do like a music detox and just like stop. I just see how long I can go without it. But it just kind of proves the point of how like significant music has become, like culturally, like you were saying, Sasco, for like the social value of listening to music and like the rating culture and like, is this mid? Is it trash? Like this type of shit is so disrespectful.
Mm,
I don't know. That's just not a way to interact with the world or with art. Consuming art to critique it or to have like a quantifiable reaction to it, that shit is just not it. Like so yeah, I think that type of like trauma and like these types of things do get glossed over in music just because people don't listen closely all the time. I'm guilty of that too. I listen to even like listening to like Woods, like which we'll talk about. Like it's so easy to be like, oh man, that reference was crazy. But then it's like, well no, he's talking about like a really terrible like sexual encounter, like
Yeah.
violent act or whatever. So I'm guilty of it too. Like, but yeah, I think listening to music more intentionally, we all need to think about doing.
Also, just very guilty too. I don't want to act like I'm not like, this is just something I've only recently been thinking about.
Yeah. Sunmundi, I'm so glad you said something about Woods. He immediately came to mind when I was listening to your responses to the questions I asked. Sometimes personally, I have to be in the right mental state to consume a piece of work, right? I have had to be really intentional about that. And he's a perfect example of this because I feel like he has this sort of status where people just immediately listen to something that he has done without really sitting with it. And I think because of the way things are presented to us and just the overconsumption of music and just everything in life in general, because of the way the world works, you really have to kind of just stop and sort of consume things one thing at a time. And really, there's a lot of intentionality around that. And if you're not sort of engaging in a proper way, I feel you do miss things, or you just are sort of your perspective on something might not be it might be a little bit off because you're really not sitting with the thing. So I'm glad that you mentioned Woods because he's somebody that immediately came to mind for me.
Yeah, I recall like I didn't listen to Aethiopes for like 2 weeks because I was like,
Uh-huh.
I just didn't have the time to listen to it in full quietly, like in a quiet room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I did, I was like, it just hit that much harder. And there weren't many albums that I would do that for. Like Ka, is someone who talked about this, like in his Red Bull interview in 2016. He was like, to listen to my music, like I encourage you to just like shut your phone off for like 30 minutes and just like listen, just like sit with this. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just sit in a like room, tell people to not like talk to you, just like listen to the music. And that's obviously something that, if you have the like time and circumstances to do that, that's great. But yeah, I hope people, try to do that with our music, but
Hmm.
at the same time, like we listen to music everywhere. Like we listen to music in the car, like with friends, like we listen to it socially. Yeah, sometimes it's just hard to dedicate that focus, but I don't know. It's what you gotta do. Like for example, not to like ramble on too long. But yeah, back in Griselda's heyday, like if you will, I was just every day, like only Griselda, like
Mm.
Conte, whatever. And then like one day, I'm like, the fuck am I doing? Like, this is all I listen to? Like, why is this all I listen to? And then, I don't know. I like eventually started to try and like branch out. Um,
Hmm.
and even today, I'm like, I have to like kind of force myself to just like not listen to rap sometimes, not because it's bad, but just because I'm like, what? I don't know. I need to be on a different frequency sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Hope the album encourages people to think about that.
So the next thing I want to dig into is relevant to this conversation. I'm always surprised these days when a project is like an hour and some change long because I feel like that is something that just doesn't happen anymore for the majority of the projects that we consume. So when I saw that contacting was an hour and I think it's like a few minutes long, I was surprised. And it made me wonder is time something that you're both generally conscious of when you're putting an album together? And do you think that it can add or take away from a project's creative energy?
Yeah, I think it's not something that I personally set out to do early in an album. However, it was something that I became like conscious of halfway through. I'm like, oh, we have whatever 12 tracks, and I feel like there's still more to say. And like to the second part of your question, like, yeah, I mean, 100%. Like an album can be too long, but also there's times when like albums are too short and you want more. Like Earl is kind of like the other side of the spectrum. Like he's been a proponent of like you don't need to have a song more than 2 minutes. Like you don't need an album to be more than 30 minutes. And that's like true. That's like it's good to like adapt to like, your listeners, I guess, in that sense. But also, I don't know, for me, like making an album that's an hour long, I'm just like kind of proud of myself that I had this like much to say. And I don't, some people might find it like too, he's saying too much for too long and this needs to stop. And I was talking to Clown Cat about this. I was like, you know, if people listen to this album like once in full and like pick out two or three songs that are really good and just like listen to those all the time, I'm happy with that. That's cool. I feel like it's an achievement to. I can't listen to too many hour long albums. Like Shook World by King Vision Ultra, of course, is like an absolute masterpiece, and it's literally an album I've heard like maybe two or three times. But I just have that kind of relationship with it where I'm like, every time I listen to it, it needs to be like a serious listen. It's just so memorable. Like I literally only listened to it like three times, and it means that much to me. So I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
I'm surprised we did it, honestly, because there's a lot of albums I know of that are like upwards of an hour, and I listen to and I'm like, man, there's like an incredible 45-minute album inside of this, but you guys got too greedy, and here we are. This I don't think is the case. Like I look at the track list and I'm like, what could we possibly remove from this? It feels pretty airtight. Obviously, I'm extremely biased, but I'm glad I feel, I'm very proud of it. I'm usually pretty time conscious too. I don't think I'd do this on my own, make an hour-long album, but like, yeah, the songs are there. We have them. There were a couple times too where I thought we were done, and then I'd get like two more songs in the inbox for beats that I didn't know we picked out or something. I think Sundial Timex, that was a real late addition, but like that's like one of the best ones on there, in my opinion. There was a bit of two. I don't know. You could tell me if we should edit this out, Sunmundi, but like we were about to put this out as two albums, like separated by about a month.
Yeah, we thought about
like,
that.
Part of the idea was to drop, like really roll out and drop the first one, and then not say anything, and then just drop the second one a month later. Surprise.
I still think that shit would have been cool. Because we reckoned with this question so much. We were like, who are people gonna care about this for an hour? I don't know. Like, but yeah, I think in the end we're just like, I don't know, fuck it. If you can stay along for the ride, it's hopefully worth your time.
Yeah, I think it's worth more as a single experience.
Agreed.
I think we have one more question, and then we'll move on and talk about Woods, whose new album is 53 minutes long, by the way. So
it's pretty airtight, though, also, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Might be a trend happening here, though. About to see some changes. Anyway, completely different note. I've been curious about the album art. Who's the artist who did the cover?
His name's Kita Savi. He's somewhere in Europe. I don't really recall where he's from, but he did the art for Rock Marciano's Elephant Man Bones. And I was like, that shit is awesome. And I just like reached out to him on a whim, and I was like, will you take a commission from a random person? Anyway, hit him up. He's like the nicest dude. And yeah, he just makes this really sick, like kind of 3D, very textured, like sculpture-esque digital art, which I don't know how he makes it, but it's like I love looking at this album art, man. Like I just really enjoy looking at it, and I can't believe that my album has this like crazy picture attached to it. I gave him a very, very esoteric prompt, and he nailed it. Yeah, I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, I wondered like what sort of prompt or how much information the artist may have had, because I haven't been able to articulate it necessarily, but there's something about it that just feels perfect. It's abstract, but it also looks like something to break through. It looks like something trying to break through to something else, which to me like fits the whole contacting like concept.
100%. Yeah, I kind of had envisioned the album art, like knowing that a lot of the beats I was getting in the early days were like very kind of like electronic, kind of like spacey, like disjointed jazz type of things. I told him, I'm like, man, I want like a sphere of like electronic, like power or whatever. I don't even recall. I would actually love to see what I emailed him. Anyway, we like went back and forth a little bit, and he gave me this super sick picture, which I agree. It's like something breaking through. It's kind of like a good challenge to look at, which like I enjoy album covers that are kind of ambiguous like that. So yeah, he nailed it. Whatever people see, to me it looks like an old time like microphone, like one of the big like boxy ones. But yeah, the textures are just so tight. I really like it.
This thing was broke from the jump. No point going back and forth over who did what. My character arc rolling loud to Shakespeare in the park. You get stabbed, stagger off in the dark. I'm waiting in the wings, understudy every part. I lied cause I loved her, I never crossed my heart. Show my face but left right when it started to start. A man apart, drink alone, pack bar. I stack will turn to standy, a man at arms. A little gas, crash dummies flying out the cars. Hospital vending machine, detours to Cheetos. New Year's Eve I snuck into Clico. Puerto Rico, Yuca fries. Louis the 14th in a vape, you hit it twice. I hope it's nothing but holes in paradise. Hospital vending machine, detours to Cheetos. New Year's Eve I snuck into Clico. Puerto Rico, Yuca fries. Louis the 14th in a vape, you hit it twice. I hope it's nothing but holes in paradise.
Every episode, we ask our guests to pick an album that is either a favorite, a personal classic, something meaningful to them in their art, something along those lines. So tonight, we're talking about Billy Woods and we're talking about Church. All right, so question that we often ask folks right off the bat is, how did we get here? How did we end up landing on Church?
Speaking of compromise, we were one of the occasions where the two of us were in the same physical space happened to be when you emailed us. We were about to play a show in Brooklyn here. Yeah, we got the email and instantly it's like, what album are we picking?
Our next disagreement.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, we went back and forth for so long because I don't know, we just have a different set of albums each that are just like important to us. And of course, like Wood's music is what like one of the overlaps for us of like just music that's very important. So this seemed like a good choice.
We almost met at the Church release show, but I don't know if we met or if we didn't, if we tried. You know what I mean? Like,
do we meet at the Maps release show?
I think we met at the Maps release show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. Like, why Church over one of the other Woods albums?
I mean, I speaking personally, this year being like the last 6 months, I don't know, this one's felt like a lot more relatable to me personally. Obviously, I haven't had any like the specific experiences Woods had on the album but like I feel like I'm in a lot of ways like in a analogous time period in my life to what he was reminiscing on primarily in the album, because of course it jumps across from present day to his early 2000s New York experience to the times before that. Sounds like, you know, when he was in Zimbabwe still. But yeah, that period of like the primary part feels relevant to me. And also, I don't know, I felt like the one we both would be able to speak about most. I think the second option would have been Brass. If we're going to do Woods album, yeah.
Perhaps, yeah.
Or was it? I don't remember. Yeah, it might have been Brass.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, Church, yeah, I don't really have like as much of a personal connection as Sasco does to the album. But I do love it for the fact that it's fully like it's produced by Messiah Music, who
incredible.
Like I just love, and I think like Woods, like I think my favorite Woods songs are on Messiah Music beats, and so there's just always something like new in the beats that I appreciate, and it's obviously just like such an amazing album. There's always a lot to his stuff, and like like you were saying, it's like you got to give it the time of day. It's an ongoing process as a Woods fan, is finding like the meaning at your own pace. I feel like is kind of part of the process.
And this one took a while to hit me too. When it first came out, I'm like, yeah, cool, Woods and Messiah Music, like incredible, but it didn't really have the full effect on me, especially, you know, Ethiops had come out that same year. I was still of the mind of like, that's the masterpiece of the two, but now I'm really like very much come around on Church and like really see it for what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like both Ethiops and Church made me appreciate the layers of Wood's genius, right? Like in different ways. So like Ethiops, the storytelling was just like I think that was when I really consciously realized, holy shit, this man can tell a story. Like he should probably write a book. I mean, he is writing books, really. But then when I heard church, it's not like he's not doing that on here, but the way he's doing it felt different. So I honestly, like, when I listened to this album, it was descriptive in a way that reminded me of how Gordon Parks would capture Black life through his camera, right? Like the way that he captured everyday experiences, even things that seemed like really mundane. He just had a way of just like breathing life into his photos. And I feel like that's what Woods does on Church. So when I listened to this album, I really saw it for that. So it was storytelling, but in a different way, and it felt really different than what he was doing on Aethiopes, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that reminds
Breathing
me of.
life into photos is such a good way to put it. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say that reminds me of the track Frankie, where it's like it seems like a regular afternoon, you know.
Hmm.
Um, it's like you can't really say why he wrote that song and made it one of the however many tracks on this album, but like also intuitively and emotionally, like you know exactly why.
Hmm.
Just not like you can't verbalize it, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
understood.
Yeah, yeah. Sasco, I think you're the one that said this, but you said that Woods's work is important to you. Simple question, but I always try to understand this when people talk about him. Why is that true for you? And Sunmundi, I would ask you the same thing. What makes his work important for you?
Again, it's tough to verbalize because
Hmm.
I don't know. Like of course, I don't relate to most of it. He's had a very unique life, but also like in ways other people might relate to it. I just can't.
Hmm.
He's really just like the greatest writer, in my
Mm.
opinion. That's kind of it. I don't know. Great writer, chooses great beats. Like he does kind of touch on universal things that, like, a track like Remorseless or something,
Yeah.
and Smith and Cross, like,
Hmm.
that would those two tracks together like destroy me emotionally every time. But like, I don't know, I can't really put it to any one thing. It's really, it's just amazing to witness when he does touch on things that can relate to me. It's just like it's really effective.
I kind of echo that. Like, yeah, I'm like admittedly not like the biggest Woods fan. Like, I'm a pretty like average Woods fan, and that's like partly because I like don't listen to him as much because I feel like I can't, you know, I can't like keep. Sometimes I just can't keep up.
Hmm.
Like it's just so heavy and dense, and like it's dense in a way that's like actually fucking dense. Like I think like what Sasco said about him like touching on universal things and like what you said about how he like breathes life into moments is just so like admirable from like an artistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Was it on NYC Tap Water where he's like just talking about the moment where he's like back home like pushing his kids on a
Yeah.
swing?
Oh,
Is that
Yeah.
that's the track
all
after As the Crow Flies, I think is
word?
that one. But
Yeah, just like moments like that are just so they're just so like pretty. Like I don't know, just literally like you need to appreciate what he's doing. And yeah, I think just when he touches on like universal like truths that he like learned in like unexpected ways, I think that's is like bread and butter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
ongoing process of like being able to verbalize why Woods is great because there's that's why people still write about him.
right.
That's why
Yeah.
there's still interviews with Woods like every other month, like because this man has had such a complex life and he's documented it
Yeah.
so robustly, but
Hmm.
also like there's so much more to like
So much
infer.
mystery.
And there's exactly, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like
I would add two more things too to why I think he's great. One is like he has a tendency to say things that are very obvious in a way that like just is so impressive how he can verbalize it so simply,
Hmm.
like in a
Yeah.
way no one else had before, at least that I might have heard.
Yeah.
Um, and the other is like, he's just such a knowledgeable person that like just the most basic reading of his lyrics, like you're gonna come out more well-rounded, like historically, and
Yeah.
like if you can go down all different rabbit holes of literature, just like if you happen to be unaware just by like following the clues he leaves. and the things he references.
Yeah.
I found a lot of his music to be, a learning experience or like an opportunity to learn more.
I think this,
Yeah.
like, just touching on some of what you all are saying, like, well, I'll back up and say, for me, I'm always a fan of somebody who can make like difficult things easy, and he makes it seem so easy.
Mhm.
Also a huge fan of writers, like of any format, whether it's in hip hop or in literature, that like say a lot by saying very little. And Woods is like so skilled at that. And I think part of what makes these like experiences that he writes about so interesting, or that the fact that he can keep writing about those experiences, is that sometimes they only seem to have lasted for like a minute. Like this was a brief moment in his life, but he's turned it into like two verses that leave you with this like still photograph of this like movie in your mind of what was happening in those moments.
If I can like jump in, I think about the feature, the Bardo feature on that Prem Rock track. Like that's maybe one of my most like listened to Woods features, where like I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about like rekindling something with someone who he's like had a relationship with, and it's just the like you said, Rob. Like he just has an economy of language, and he can like I don't know, just he can just hit you with like any mood he wants whenever he wants to. And so I yeah, maybe we're kind of going in a circle, but like yeah, I don't know, just it's an ongoing like appreciation for
I
sure.
mean, even to bring it back to church, like verse 2 on Puerto Rico, like that's something, you can write a whole textbook about in an objective way, trying to communicate what he's communicating there. But no, he's
Yeah.
like the first two lines when the revolution was over, they gave him half what they promised. They went back to the 10 cups of tea, that same plate of porridge. Man,
Yeah, that's probably, the track on Church that has been on my mind is classical music.
Same.
Always late for lessons, it's a lifelong trait. She could tell I was guessing, I'm mostly still guessing today. Stretching, could never really find my place. Pressing, always pressing. Disappointment etched every line in her face, every wiry grade. Still disappointed today. Piano hands, she used to say, what a waste. Sunday was Amadeus' 28th. We didn't go to church due to heavy shades, light poured by the Lord's grace. I watched her play, gods filled the place, rich chords, desolate chords, where arpeggios break. I never quite found my way, it was always the same, I never had faith. My twin found Jesus, I sifted seeds out the shape, made niggas believe when I grated cheese for the souffle. Loud like black preachers, DC niggas never see Boudet. Proud to be accepted by the same niggas I used to hate. Spanish galleon, I was sunken in place. Pieces of eight strewn on the ocean floor. Police rushed the gate, flushed everything. Couldn't bring myself to flush the haze. I threw it out the window.
Such a brief, story about, I assume his mom or somebody in his family playing the piano. God's in the room. I don't know. It's such a small thing that he like gives so much meaning.
Feels like a James Baldwin kind of moment, like that track specifically. Yeah, no, I kind of interpreted that track maybe incorrectly as like him as a child, like wasting his potential at piano. But even then, even if that's a misinterpretation, we can all relate to like letting someone down that we look up to. Maybe I
no,
don't know.
I agree with that interpretation. That's one of the ones too I kind of find relatable. The like piano hands, she said, what a waste. Like
Mm.
that line kills me. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. Recently, I was trying to play some piano or like play some keys. And I was trying to learn a song, and it's like the hardest part of playing piano for me is not the physical part of like hitting the right chords and the notes. It's the guilt of
Hmm.
like, as a musician, like this is something you're supposed to be able to do better,
Hmm.
and I'm like not. That's I don't know. Yeah, it's the hardest part.
I played the piece till it fell to pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know, just that type of shit. You're like, man, just heavy. I don't know.
Jessica, you said a few things that like I think about when I listen to Billy Woods but church in general. So like Puerto Rico, the way that Billy Woods ties history together, specifically Black history, right? Like the beginning of that video is him and Elucid on a boat. Just the way it's emotional, just the way that these two Black men are like on the sea, they're in this boat, right? And they're just like in the water, which speaks to so many different things. And then later the video goes in and it's almost, I don't know if, I've never asked him this before, but like he's in these abandoned places. Like it looks like, I don't know, they're just abandoned maybe because of gentrification or what have you, but it's all tied together. It feels like it's all tied together. And I think he just does that so well visually and also like lyrically when he's telling a story. It's just so, I don't know, it's just so profound for me. That's one of the reasons I appreciate him so much. But also, Sasko, you said about him just being able to talk about things in a simple way. He has made me think about things that are just really simple and like a new perspective, or just consider things that I've never considered before. So I can't remember the name of the song. I don't know if it was an interlude. It's on Hiding Places, but he talks about being in this physical like location and getting old, like people who formerly lived there's bills, right? Like
Yep.
they just keep coming and coming and coming. And I remember when I moved into my house, that happened to me so much. And just like I never really consciously thought about why that happens. And he talked about it in the song. And I remember the day I heard this. I was walking down the street and I was like, wow, oh my God. Like, and it's not like this profound, like, philosophical thing. Like it's real life. Like
Yeah.
he was just speaking about something that fucking happens. And he was like, well, this is why. And I was kind of like, oh my God, yeah. Like, and I just never stopped and really thought about the why. And I think he really does a good way of challenging you to do that when you're engaging with his work. Like, we just move through the world, and I think he challenges you to just stop and question things that are happening, like simple everyday things. Like, why is this actually the case? Like, why is this happening? Why is this person doing that? Like, and I really appreciate that from his artistry because he's really made me look at things in a different way, more than just that example.
I would say for me, not so much the why necessarily, but the presence that I imagine he has to have in these moments to like remember them, or to remember or maybe the presence that he has while he's writing to like come up with a feeling connected to the memory. Has just honestly just encouraged me to like try and be more present in my daily life. Like, oh, I want to remember things like this. I want to have this like bank of experiences that I can draw on when I need to. The mail thing, I don't even think he, provides an explanation. He's just like,
No, he does.
does he provide an explanation as to
He
why?
basically says like those bills ain't ever getting paid. Like he doesn't come out and say, "Well, they're not getting paid because these people are poor." But like there is an explanation. Like it might not be a black and white one, but for me it made me think like, "Oh, well that's why." So you kind of have to do the work a little bit. I don't know that he sort of sits you down and says, "Well, this is why this happened and this is why that happens." I think he challenges you to question things as they are. When things happen in the world, instead of just sort of like me sort of checking the mail saying like, "Why the fuck are these people not changing their address?" It made me stop to think like, well, maybe this is why they're not. But I don't know that he blatantly comes out and gives and like walks you through life in that way. But he makes you stop to think like, to ask like, well, why is this happening? But he kind of goes into it a little bit. I can't remember the name of the song, but I know that it made me stop and say, because I had an example, and it made me stop and say like, oh, well, maybe that's why these people aren't changing their address and I'm getting their bills. Maybe this is why. I think you have to do the work. And like we talked about this, like you got to be an attentional listener. And you're saying this, you got to be present. But I think he does try to offer explanations. You got to meet him halfway, though. You can't just expect him to provide all these explanations for you. Got to be an active listener.
It is very covert at times, definitely. That's why
For sure.
sometimes I appreciate when he's like at a place where it's easy to read. Like sometimes it's just nice to be able to like, I don't know. Some tracks are like obviously easier to digest and like understand what he's talking about than others. But I can imagine when you have more shared experiences like he's talking about, like when you live through something that Billy Woods is rapping about,
Hmm.
probably hits 10 times harder. Like,
Yeah.
which
I
like yeah,
had
I can't relate to a majority of what he's talking about, but the thing,
Right.
yeah, I'm like, oh shit.
reminds me when Hiding Places came out. I had these neighbors at the time. I forget which was first, but obviously, like when the second of the two events happens, like maybe think of the first. But yeah, I had these neighbors one time, and there was like a fire in their backyard, and we went over. And we're like, "Hey, everything all right?" And like, "Oh yeah, we're just burning all our mail. Like we're good." And then like, of course, hearing that interlude on Hiding Places probably was like I
Mm-hmm.
probably realized exactly why they were doing that. I mean, I probably
Yeah.
knew at the time. If I didn't know at the time, like I don't, this was 8 years ago now that album came out. But yeah, it was very relevant to something I was just like witnessing.
I appreciate that, Sasco. And I appreciate what you're saying, Samuni, about just sort of being like you appreciate him, but you're not like sometimes it's like you can't relate. Like it's a little bit dense for you. And I appreciate that because sometimes I feel like people listen to him and they are just they're not really listening.
Fucking meaning bombing, trying
And
to
it
shit themselves
bothers
every
me.
Oh, you
It,
ever see a Genius
oh
annotation
my
on him?
fucking God, it's the
Every song is
worst.
about dealing. If you ask them,
It's
right.
the if you have ever gone to Wood show and you just see these people like like screaming the lyrics and they're not paying attention to what they're saying. They're not getting, you can just tell
oh,
that they're just, oh my, don't even get me started. We
story
could have a
about.
whole, well, you go ahead.
I was gonna tell a quick anecdote about this. I was at the Maps release show. I was standing next to Shamar, and this person in front of us was doing this like, the car dealership inflatable,
Yeah.
that kind of dance to Spider Hole, just like swaying back and forth. And during that moment, Shamar turned to me like, "All right, I'm out. I'll see you later."
Yo, he came on the show and we fucking talked about this because he
But
was just
that's
like, I am never come. He was like, I'm not going to another wood show, man, because we talked about this shit and I have had the same fucking experiences.
I
It's
want
the
yeah.
worst.
I want to say that we went to the Real Notes event in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, where Woods was present, and Gollywog, had just come out. I don't remember what question he was asked, but he was referring to the track Black Xmas on Gollywog, and was like, turned to the crowd and was like, no one ever had like their neighbors get evicted, and no one raised their hand. No one knew, no one had had this experience, but so many people will make you think that they know exactly what this dude is talking about all the time.
Right. And he
Yeah.
put such a like not just individual but like emotional filter on things that are we mostly or that most people would think about only in like a systemic or a statistical way.
Hmm.
I don't know if I have anything else to add to that, but that's something I really appreciate about him. You really see the human side of things that are may only be presented to you depending on what kind of life you live, you know, just in numbers and in like complete rationality. And it's important not to view things only that way.
Yeah.
Two other things I'll just say about Woods that I appreciate. One, knowing how to pick guests. I feel like he's rarely wrong. I can't think of an instance in which I felt like it didn't work. The other thing is sequencing. He's just like so great at sequencing an album, even when it's not his. I think the sequencing that he does is that to me is something that I always like notice and appreciate. And I think it gives an album like a certain kind of life. And his records are always very well sequenced. They're nodding, folks, just for our listeners. Buddy, who can't see these people on the recording with me, they're nodding.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think like the what all jokes aside, next to Puerto Rico, the 1-2 punch is crazy. Also, the I think my favorite like kind of couple tracks, my favorite sequence on the album, the track with Fat Ray starts with
Schism.
that. Yeah, yeah, like schism to the end is kind of like something that I kind of visualize altogether. But yeah, I think what you were saying about this album earlier is that it feels like a different type of storytelling.
Hmm.
It's on Aethiopes. On this track, it feels like individual tracks can be kind of parsed more easily
Yeah.
than on Aethiopes. And that's also something that, adding another note to the Billy Woods fan club, he can do these like vignette kind of
Hmm.
like I guess he has albums that are like just made of vignettes. I think that shit is so sick. And yeah, like Rob, like you were saying earlier, like his music brings to us like the realization that we need to be more present in our life to be able to reflect on these types of things. And as a writer myself, I'm like, what I take from his music is, first of all, it's hard for me, at least, to like write about something very specific that happened to me in a non cheesy way. That is really fucking hard to do. Like it's just hard to write like this, like how he does. And yeah, Church is just like another prime example of why we love him, why you gotta love him.
I'm grateful to have a chance to talk about Woods in a forum like this. We talked about an Arm& Hammer record in the past, but this is the first Woods album that someone has picked. And I'm grateful that you picked Church because I was so into Aethiopes that Church was something that I don't think I spent enough time with this year, the year it came out. So
I don't think either of us wanted to be the ones to take the chance to speak about Aethiopes on the podcast. Don't know. I don't know. Me personally, I don't know if I'd have, as a masterpiece, but I don't know if I'd have much to add to the discourse.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to purport that I like can, speak at length on any very specific things about Woods, but yeah, I think we touched on what makes him like the most critical like writer like ever. I don't know.
No, I appreciate that because I think sometimes people talk too much.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you again for your time. Thank you for being here and for sending, contacting our way. Really appreciate it. Want to give you an opportunity to do whatever promo you want to do. What do you want folks to know about contacting?
We got another single coming out. We have a video coming out. It'll probably be out by the time people hear this, but Cloud Spells featuring Shamar. We got a video directed by Dunce Cap that's coming out too. And then otherwise we have the album out July 11th.
11, get your Slurpee, get your album
At 7-Eleven. It was a regrettable release day landed on a regrettable day.
I mean, not just because of that, but you got Clips, you got Boldy and Craven, you got Mike Eagle. I think another one. Yeah, didn't know that when we picked it.
Yeah,
this album is fucking good. So,
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being interested. First of all, for listening, for
just listening. Yeah, let alone having us on here.
Yeah, shit is tight.
I've been listening to this, to both of you on here for a while. So this is like, yeah.
Oh, appreciate that, man.
Same here. Yeah, you guys are dope.
Thank you.
Are there physicals coming too? You mentioned a CD test press.
I'm holding up a CD. They're not going to see that. Yeah, we got CDs. Maybe another type of physical. But CDs are definite.
And Bandcamp's the best place for people to look for that.
Yes, yeah, that'll be on Bandcamp. We'll probably have to pre-order for CD and digital by the time this gets posted.
All right, cool. Great. Well, guys, thanks again. Really appreciate you.
Likewise.
You're digging the record. This has been The Next Movement, folks. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Peace.
Saturn return reunion, serve shock value, an open casket, gun runners surrounded by a myriad of park benches hung like martyr tropes. Living reduced to orchard, strange fruit. If we're lucky, fun fact on the wiki page, archived a citation. Rio Wax carried legacy, rapper to my will, tangible word. Prayer hands, gold on 50 of retelling, dwindling retention. Midas touch, but what pitchfork reviews worth? I be a new age apocalypse here, asking innocent late stage internet questions where the birds go at night. Is it real? Is it real? Let me know. Is it real? Speak with the conduit, Ouija board, story glow. I comb through summoning spells with clouds seen, but it's not enough power. It's not enough. Speak with the conduit, Ouija board, story glow. I comb through summoning spells with clouds seen, but it's not enough power. 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 It's not enough power.
Every day is different.
It's not enough.
Every song is different. And so the thing that messes with our heads.